While it's still April, we got ourselves another big one. Bomberman Hero Rescue Princess Million, shortened to just Bomberman Hero internationally, released for the Nintendo 64 in all regions. And finally, another game that I grew up playing. Up front, I should mention, this game doesn't have a multiplayer battle mode. This alone earned it a lot of hate back when it was released. We all know Bomberman is only good in the battle mode. Nobody plays these games for the campaign. I've already mentioned that stuff at the start. It's an interesting conundrum that the first-person shooter genre often faces. Does it even need a campaign? Odd to see Bomberman go through the same debate this early on. Of course, with GB3 and Pocket, this isn't even the first Bomberman game without a battle mode since the NES game, but Hero got the brunt of it. Back in the day, my siblings and I were disappointed, at least initially. We asked for Baku 64 and got Hero. Of course, when we decided to just play the game for what it was, we had a blast, and so did a lot of other people, it seems. But enough about that, let's boot it up and have a look. We start the game and see that Bomberman has a bunch of new gadgets, and we see him dying in each one. You'd think they'd want to show how awesome he is in all of these gadgets, but okay. So what's our story? Long ago, in a galaxy far, far away, Princess Leia was in her spaceship being pursued by the Galactic Empire. She gets captured, but gives the plans to the Death Star to her droid R2-D2, who escapes to Tatooine and finds Luke Skywalker. Thus, it is up to Luke to fight the Galactic Empire and rescue Princess Leia. At some point in time in the Bonber Nebula, Princess Million was in her spaceship being pursued by the Garaden Empire. She gets captured but gives the secret disc to her robot Piebot, who escapes to Planet Bomber and finds Bomberman. Thus, it is up to Bomberman to fight the Garaden Empire and rescue the titular Princess Million. This game is linear in that we unlock one level at a time and there's no overworld or anything, just a bunch of selection menus, but we can always go back to completed stages. Initially 5 planets, the first 4 having 3 areas each and 48 stages in each area. We started up and it is indeed another Bomberman game in 3D. Very different from what we had in Baku 64 though, and there is a reason for this. This is PC Genjin, more commonly known as Bonk in North America. Another Hudson franchise that saw a few games. When the Ultra 64, what would later become the Nintendo 64, was announced, Hudson began developing a 3D platformer with Bonk as the main character, this project being known as Ultra Genjin. Due to some development problems like figuring out 3D platforming, it was cancelled, but later picked up again and adapted into Bomberman Hero. That explains the differences between this game and other Bomberman games at the time. It's a Bonk game with Bomberman painted over it. Immediately we notice that we can jump. This was heavily criticized. No, I'm serious. There are reviewers out there saying Bomberman can't jump. We all know that. I mean, he has been able to jump in Saturn Fight and Pocket, but I guess they're the experts here. We can still place bombs and kick them. This time they explode on impact. We can even place them while in the air. We can climb ledges and we can throw a bomb with one button. No more generating one in your hands and then throwing it like in Baku 64. Our thrown bombs also explode on impact, making for a much more streamlined main attack. Useful if this is to be a 3D platformer. And charging up a bomb, we can throw up to 4 at once, though we hardly ever have to use this. Let's go into the building. So this robot thing trains us and later sends us off on our quest. As a kid, I thought there must be some connection between this robot and the professor dude from the DOS game I grew up with. Now that I've played pretty much the entire rest of the franchise, I can definitively say that I have no friggin' clue. As we ascend the elevator, we notice something from Spaceland on our planet. If at any time between growing up and starting my journey here, you had asked me what Bomberman music was, I would have started humming this. It sort of has that motif that's been there since TG16. Even back in the day, this game's music was praised. This one person writing it's the only good thing about it. Ugh, whatever. So we can collect bomb-ups and fire-ups as per usual, and bombs explode in sphere shapes. The bombs can and do arc over enemies, but if you learn proper positioning, you can deal with this. You can throw one bomb into an explosion and chain that back to yourself. Not very useful, but with a vest you can perform Bakuen cross attack. You can't walk around while doing it, but it is a proof of concept. We have a health bar now, and die after 4 hits. Health can be refilled with heart power-ups. There aren't very many in the game, but that's because of the version. There are tons of differences between the Japanese and Western releases, enemies and items being placed differently, the Western version being much more stingy with health refills. It's widely seen as the hard mode version of the original Japanese game. Collecting 200 crystals will increase your health meter up to a maximum of 8. Apparently in the Japanese version this is permanent, but in the Western version a game over or reload will reset your health back to 4. So yeah, a lot harder. On the topic of crystals, those, gems, and power-ups give you points, as well as killing enemies. And at the end of the stage you're graded on how many points you get. The Japanese version is pretty lenient, but in the Western version, most of the time you absolutely need every single thing in the stage to get a perfect 5 rating, which can lead to some frustration. If you missed one thing, you have to do the stage over again. Luckily, a high rating isn't strictly necessary, but we'll get back to that. Stages mostly consist of getting to the end. Sometimes a stage has 2 exits leading to 2 different stages after it. Sometimes you need a card to open the exit. Sometimes these 4 crystals open the way forward. Sometimes there's a mini-boss at the end. Sometimes you bomb a lava dam or this water tank. There are gimmicks like moving platforms, secret passageways, teleporters, switches, a decent variety. In the first world, Black Bomber occasionally assists us with the 2-seater. This confused me as a kid. Wasn't Black Bomber a bad guy? But now I know he became a good guy in Super 1, so it all makes sense now. In one of the early levels, we find this purple orb thing, an ADOC bomb, a special collectible that doesn't respawn when we repeat the level. There are 24 total across the first 4 worlds. After the training missions, the robot thing sends us away to investigate that thing that crashed. It's in this area where we get our first gadget, Bomber Marine. Udder Chang? Otter Dang? Unner Gang?
Bomber change!
Oh, Bomber Change.
Bomber change!
Jeez, learn to enunciate. Normally, water spits us back out, which can be useful for gaining height sometimes, but with Bomber Marine, we can move underwater in a ravine, underwater in a ravine, underwater in a tunnel. Yeah, the underwater levels get kind of boring. There's one underwater level where we can get eaten by this thing. At least we have bubble-spitting crabs. It's also here where we get Bomber Jet. It is more fast-paced than Bomber Marine, and makes for some fun on-rails shooter sections. At the UFO crash site, we face this blue dude named Nitros. We face him once on every planet, actually, making for sort of a reoccurring rival character. And it's always in this subspace he calls ADOC. The connection between this ADOC and the ADOC bombs is unknown. Boss fight scores are handled with a timer, so make sure to learn his jump evasion patterns and beat him quickly. Nitros out of the way, Piebot greets us, gives us that secret disc, and tells us to, what else? Rescue Princess Million. What do you do if you have short render distance? Why, you pass it off as a stage gimmick, of course. We board this colorful spaceship that was chasing the princess in the intro, and as Nitros escapes with the princess, we fight Endol, who looks like an electric catfish. I know that because the manual told me so. Upon defeat, he explodes into money? And as we exit his ship, there's a dollar sign on it. Was he supposed to have a money gimmick going on at some point? Either way, Bomberman and Piebot set out to the second world, Primus Star. There are cutscenes in some places. Find the underground tunnel? This doesn't change anything in the game, we just keep progressing through the stages. Witness here the only time we need the multiple bomb throwing attack to activate this ice flower. The wall pass power-up exists, but it's only for very few specific walls in like 3 levels. After the waterway, there's this cutscene with... Okay, if that ain't Mario 64, I don't know what is. What's this, a bomb chew? Okay, I take that comment about the grass back. This is Mario 64. Remote bomb is here, though it isn't very useful in this game. We find Princess Million in this prison cell, but Nitros is here for round 2, and this time he uses bombs. As a kid, I thought his bombs must be ice bombs or something, what with the white explosion. But the red color makes me think they're based on the power bombs from Baku 64. Nitros defeated again, the princess has been taken to this clock tower. Enter Bomber Copter. We can climb, sink, and hover while dropping bombs. Actually pretty cool aerial combat. We climb the inside of the tower where these enemies shake their hips at us seductively while popping their pupils at us. No thanks, you're not my type. So we fight Baruda, Endel's first pupil. What? These bosses have relationships with each other now? This is never brought up again. Whoa, 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 whoa there, watch the inflation. Think you're straight out of DeviantArt. We fight him in an aerial duel with Bomber Copter. I think it's a pretty cool concept, though you don't have great depth perception to tell if you're hitting him. Also, why is his death sound the same as his laughing sound? What's so funny about dying? Piebot catches us in the two-seater to tell us the princess has been taken to the next planet, Kanatia Star. There are a few levels where you continuously lose health because of the heat, but you go into these air conditioning pods for a full heal. The game doesn't differentiate between regular damage and heat damage, so you can always go back here for a full heal, kinda like water in Mario 64. Here is where we get the last gadget, Bomber Slider, with some pretty neat music. Bomberman is ambushed and captured by this thing, and a cat lady. But instead of killing us, they just put us in a cell. Easiest escape ever? Admit it, if you grew up with this game, you did this. This level has bubbles with which we can float up. This time Nitros has a shield, taken care of pretty easily. Finally, Princess Million can be rescued and she's teleported away. This level has a throwing glove with which we can throw really far, but you have to wait for it to fade off before you can throw normally again. And here we have salt bombs, which are entirely useless except for killing slugs. We will see bombs charged with different elements in later games, but the very first alternate bomb type, not counting things like remote bomb, is in fact the salt bomb. We enter level Move Stone, in which we move stones. Let's enter the boss stage. What is this statue? I need to know. Nobody in the game references this. What is it doing here? Is it a leftover from when this was gonna be a bonk game? Oh well, now we get to fight Bolban, who can turn people to stone. With Piebot saved, it turns out Nitros took the princess to yet another planet. It is here on planet Muzzone that we get to ride Louie, for a grand total of 2 levels. He can wall kick, cause that's mandatory.
I did it!
Yeah, we did it. It's also here in the jungle where the game can't handle the frame rate anymore. Oh, if you're struggling with this level, just go along the top and make the icebergs fall down in advance. It's here where we get the second elemental change to our bombs, freeze bombs, used to freeze the enemies so we can use them as platforms. And there are more of these statues. I swear they were supposed to be something at some point during development. Nitros wants the disc from us. Oh right, the disc. That was a thing. And this time he can line bomb. Sure wish we could. Now Princess Million wants us to get the other 3 discs, so I guess we're getting them now. These 3 levels have some pretty cool gimmicks, with this tall wind tunnel level, one where we turn gravity weaker, one where we have a mirror and we can enter the mirror. Whoa, there's an invincible ghost in there, looking kinda like the hologram bombers from World. We give the discs to the princess, but it wasn't her, it was the cat girl Natia in disguise. Now the Garadan Empire can revive Bagular? Wait, if this was a cat girl in a human suit, does that make her a reverse furry? What would you call that, a skinny? But first, we fight her pet robot Cronus. Okay, make sure you don't get hit by a missile after killing the robot, otherwise Natia will just stay on her floating thing and the second phase of the fight won't start. Let's try it again. And she can throw knives and whip us. Okay, hold on a sec here. Electric shocks, inflation, bondage, furry S&M. I'm starting to see a pattern here. With Natia out of the way, we finally rescue the titular Princess Million, but we need to go to the final planet and take care of the Garadan Empire. Off we go as Nitros uses the discs to revive Bagura from a brain. Wait, so is this what happened to him after Super 4? That was the last time we saw him as a brain, but then how did he end up in the past for Wars and World? The time warp might make sense, but how is he back to being a brain here? And how did he end up in Neo? And who was Babylon? Well, whatever. The 4 devils of Garadan, I guess that's what they were called, are revived, so rematch time. Underwater Boban is not a pleasant fight. But the Natias have a whole bunch of tiny Cronuslings that are kinda cute. I want one as a pet. Nitros is ready for the final fight with him and calls us Bomber Boy. Is this a reference to Bomber Boy? Probably not. He can now kick 4 bombs at once. Wish I could do that. Oh, as it turns out, he's from Planet Bomber and was a trainee there, but was brainwashed. But we knocked him back to his senses, and so he gives us a full heal and sends us off to fight Bagura. He has the amazing power of rushing forward, and he can throw purple force things, I guess. Well, that body didn't last long, and already he's back to being a brain in a jar, but this time with a TV screen? Oh well, just bomb the right one. And finally, a mech we get to destroy piece by piece. He has a goodbye gift for us, but we escape as the planet explodes. We return, and the princess has another Mario 64 reference for us, and an actual rendition of the battle mode music. Or rather, a version of it that's been used as the level select music in a few games. Go figure. Roll credits, the end. If you mash the start button while booting the game, you can visit the moon of Planet Bomber for some bonus levels, but not much else to say about that. Wow, what a game. Oh right, the ADOC bombs. Well, they're not hard to collect. What's harder is getting a perfect 5 score on every single level. Whew. With that done, we can visit the secret 6th world, Gossick. Now, if only that didn't constitute a save reload, I'd still have 8 health. Someone who knows Bagura, huh? It is Evil Bomber. You know, the one who is actually Devil Bomber, but the name got censored. And the fan patch for GB3 maintained that censored name. He appears here in English, and Bomberman makes reference to already knowing him. Well, gee, it's a good thing GB3 wasn't Japan exclusive or anything, or people might be confused as to who this guy is and how Bomberman seems to already know him. Might come up with theories of him being Sirius from Baku 64 or something. No really, this old GameFAQs guide posits that theory. Oh, region restrictions. You create so much confusion. And for what? So how does Devil tie into this plot? Is Gossick that bottom part of Planet Owen that broke off? So it was you. Well, what was you? Did he create the Garadan Empire? Was he the mastermind behind his creator Bagura? Nothing is specified, so we're still left wondering. Devil can rush into us, but isn't too tough. With Devil defeated, we celebrate again, I guess. There are a few extra modes where you can treasure hunt and time trial one of the Bomber Slider levels, but nothing too special. Whoa, one of the most extensive Bomberman campaigns. I'm actually glad to have grown up with this instead of Baku 64 looking back. Although of course that could just be nostalgia talking. But the journey is far from over.